So, and then we watched this video, and the video said the plant make energy using chloroplast, right? Chloroplast. Just a quick review. We'll talk more about this later on, but what form of energy are found in all living things? Well, there are two ways that you can make energy. One is called anabolism and catabolism. Think of this way. Anabolism is something where you put everything together to make energy. It's like making a cake, right? Put stuff together. Or you can go through catabolism when you break things apart, break the bond to make the energy. The energy, majority of the time, are found in a form called ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. You don't have to remember that whole name, but just remember when you see three letters word ATP, it means energy. It's the same thing as energy. Okay, so that's just something quick, right? ATP means energy. So today our focus is on photosynthesis, right? How plant make energy. And Johnny was saying, is that only in plant? Yes, it's only in plant. It's not in animal. Animal do not do photosynthesis, and that's because we don't have chloroplast. You gotta remember from the note last time. No, you don't have to draw anything, right? And again, same thing, sunlight, carbon dioxide, water go into the plant, and then the chloroplast inside the plant will mix everything up to produce energy for the plant. And then in turn, it release oxygen back into the atmosphere. And who need oxygen? That'll be animal, that'll be us, right? And plant also make glucose, sugar for themselves, carbohydrates, right? So that's a quick review. Hopefully you guys know this by now, right? Because you should have learned this in middle school. You also learn in kindergarten, right? So if you don't know this, go review the note again. And again, we always want you to go back and review the note. So before we talk about photosynthesis, we want to talk about chloroplast. So plant can do chloroplast. It's a constant cycle. Yes, it's a constant cycle. Well, it depends. Well, technically, yeah, if carbon dioxide is there, then it's a constant cycle. Yeah. But if the carbon dioxide is not there, then it's not, right? And then it stops. Okay, but we'll talk more about that later when we get to cell respiration. All right, before we talk about photosynthesis, first thing we need to understand about how it works. Plant have this organelle called chloroplast, right? Chloroplast. Animal don't have it. Chloroplast contain a pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment that help the plant to absorb in the sunlight. Think of it like a solar panel you see on somebody's roof, right? If you have a house that don't have a solar panel, every time the sunlight hit the roof, it likely get bounced off. Majority will be bounced off. But if you have a solar panel, then it absorb the sunlight and it convert into energy. Plants have chloroplast, like a solar panel. And within the chloroplast, they have this pigment called chlorophyll. It's a green pigment. It will be the one that absorbs in the sunlight to kickstart the photosynthesis process. Okay. Quick review. I believe if you took physical science last year, you learned of this. If you don't remember from physical science, and maybe in your middle school year, you should have talked about this already. But if not, let's review a little bit. Pigment absorb part of visible light, right? Visible light are light that we can see, like colors, right? You guys can see color, right? Majority guy, hopefully all of you guys, right? We give you a color. Right now you can see the screen has colors, and that's visible light. That's something you can see, okay? So, how does it work when we see something, right? For example, if let me see if somebody wearing a red sweater, right? Somebody wearing a red sweater. The reason I see a red sweater is because every time the light, sunlight or light bounce into that sweater. Some colors, visible color, are being absorbed, and then some will be bounced up or reflect. And when it get reflected, it hit my eyes, then I can see red. Same thing as seeing blue. Okay. Very good, Johnny. Thank you. The record button, right? You see red, right? That's because when the light hit your computer to that specific area, it will absorb all the color spectrum, but it bounces back red, so you see red. So you see only whatever bounce back at you. It's kind of like you will feel the pain if that person hit you, right? You're not gonna feel the pain if that person just talk about it. That's it, right? If somebody wearing a green sweater, and that's because their sweater are made of material that absorb all the color spectrum, but bounce back green, so we can see green. Understand? When somebody's wearing a black jacket like myself, right? Sweater I meant, right? Black shirt. That's because all the color spectrum are being absorbed, nothing being bounced back. That's why it's black. If somebody wearing a white shirt, that's because everything is being bounced back. That's why it's white. If you guys still remember, light is white, right? And within light, you are made of, they made of all these color spectrum. Okay, so a plant, why are plant green? Okay, why are plant green? Well, we see a green leaf or plant leaf green is because that plant will absorb all the color spectrum except for green. That's why it's bounced back at us green. Understand? And if we see a flower that is yellow, that's because it absorbs, that part of the plant absorb all the color spectrum except for the yellow. So that's how we see things. So keep that in mind as we move on to the note, okay? All right, so again, where does photosynthesis take place? Again, we said it's in the chloroplast, right? It's in the chloroplast. Okay. So the chloroplast is where the photosynthesis takes place. Many things are made in the chloroplast, but we'll go in depth with it again. This is one chloroplast. If you take a green leaf and you put it under the microscope, like we talk about how to use a microscope, right? You will see this is a cell right here. Okay. This is a plant cell. And then within the plant cell, you will see little chloroplast. See, this is a plant cell, 2 plant cell, 3, and so on. All these cells. And if you zoom in more, you see a little green stuff, chloroplast. If you guys did your gizmo for the plant, for the Elodia leaf, you can also see the chloroplast, right? The green stuff. And this is where plant take all the stuff and mix it up to make energy in a process called photosynthesis. You guys learn photosynthesis in a simple way, light, water, mix everything up to make energy. But we now gonna step up another step further. Photosynthesis is actually divided into 2 reactions, okay? 2 chemical reactions that take place during photosynthesis. One is called light-dependent reaction. Light-dependent means it requires light. So later on when you annotate the note, light-dependent means it requires light. Light-independent means it does not need light. Okay, so it runs through both the reaction. Light-independent reaction is also AKA, also known as Calvin cycle. That's another name, okay? Because back in the day, scientists, when they find something, they get to name it under their name. But nowadays, it became a problem because it's hard for people to remember. So now they kind of ban the naming of new discovery under your name because it makes learning confusing. So you often hear people say light dependent and light independent. So what happened during light dependent reaction? This is when plant, specifically the chloroplast, take in light. That's why it depends on light. It captures sunlight, and with the sunlight, it will run the reaction to make ATP. If you guys remember, ATP is also AKA energy. It also produces oxygen waste. Okay. The reason I said a waste because plant don't need oxygen. Just think of it like plant fart, right? Plant fart out oxygen because they don't need it, and then we take in oxygen because we need it. But we in turn release carbon dioxide with plant need. So we work together with plant. And then at night, when there is no sunlight, does that mean the plant go to sleep like us? Some people say yes, they do, but no, they actually are working at night as well. At night, they take those ATP that they made during the day with sunlight, they convert them into organic molecule called glucose, sugar, carbohydrate. You gotta remember, glucose is like the monosaccharide, the little pieces that make up the carbohydrate. They make them into sugar. And they need carbon dioxide at night to make them into sugar. Okay? So, two reactions. Let's review them again. The first reaction is what we call light-dependent reaction, or some people often call them light reaction because they need light. And this reaction takes place during the day. And this reaction is where chloroplast within a plant cell take in the sunlight, you see, sunlight. By the way, I also need water too. I forgot to include that. Sunlight, water. And then it run the reaction to make ATP, right here, ATP. It also release a waste called oxygen, but we need it. So it's not really a waste to them. And that's what we call light-dependent reaction. And then at night, plant don't go to, oh, by the way, I'm gonna skip this really quick. At night, plant don't go to sleep. They still have to work. At night, they take in that extra ATP right here. You see these extra ATP that they made? This ATP that they made during the day, and they run through a cycle right here. This cycle is called Calvin cycle, or we call the light independent reaction. This requires carbon dioxide. And where do plants get carbon dioxide from? Animals, right? Volcano, by the way. Atmosphere. The atmosphere has a lot of carbon dioxide, right? And then they will run the reaction. Every time they run the reaction, they make sugar for the plant, food so the plant can grow. And when they make food, the plant grow bigger and bigger. And who eat those sugar or those carbohydrate? We do, right? Every time we eat plant, we get carbohydrate. Make sense? And that is the two reactions that make up photosynthesis. If you think this in the form of chemical reaction, reagent and products, you gotta remember from physical science, if you guys take physical science or middle school, right? We can kind of like summarize photosynthesis in chemical reactions. This is what we call light-dependent reaction. It need water, it need light, right? Sunlight is what kickstart everything. It produces a lot of ATP, energy for the plant. And then it release oxygen waste that human need, other animal need. And then at night, plant go through a light independent reaction. It doesn't need light. It take the carbon dioxide from the air, atmospheric carbon dioxide. It mixes up with the ATP that they made during the day. It produces sugar, glucose, C6H12O6, which is sugar, carbohydrates. Remember we learned about carbohydrate. If you combine both this reaction together, you get this. 6 CO2, 6 H2O, 6 oxygen, you make 6 oxygen in the end, and 1 sugar. This reaction is missing something. There you go. It's missing light. Okay? Because without light, is there such thing as photosynthesis? All right, big brain. Okay, without light, is there such thing as photosynthesis? No, right? No light, nothing. There's no reaction. So it's missing light. So when you guys highlight, annotate this note, please add in the word light here. I leave it there for you, light. So if you balance this equation, you can see that for this reaction to run, plant need 6 carbon dioxide, 6 water to make 6 oxygen, and 1 sugar is 666. What does 666 mean? Right? You guys don't know 666 means stand for what? Somebody in the chat box let me know what does 666 stand for? The devil. Whoa, right? Some conspiracy here. In the end, the plant are the devil. Yeah, the plant out there to get rid of human.